and welcome to Horror Rewind. This is Kelly Florence,
And I'm Meg Hofdahl.
and today we're talking about Day of the Dead. Meg, you and I have talked about before my very first horror movie on VHS, and the first one I ever watched was Night of the Living Dead. You had your Dawn of the Dead taped off TV or VHS, right?
Yeah, well, I started out by just getting it every week at Blockbuster.
Hey, that works too.
Yeah.
And then I did own Day of the Dead on VHS. I have to admit I have not rewatched this since maybe you and I did a rewatch like 19 years ago, like when we first met. That's how old we are.
Yeah, no, that I think that's the one and only time I watched it. Was I had never seen it before, I don't think, when I watched it with you that day. And that was almost 20 years ago that we watched it.
So I'm going to say this right off the bat because I feel like I should go in so everyone knows my thoughts. This is my least favorite of the three that I've mentioned. And I realize why I haven't rewatched it. It's so there's so many men, military men sitting around talking.
I know. No, it was a snooze fest. And here's the problem. And here's okay. So Night of the Living Dead that came out in 1968. We've got our main character who is African American, which of course at that time, is a big deal. And in Dawn of the Dead, and might I add, in Night of the Living Dead, some of the characters are unlikable. And in Dawn of the Dead, some of the characters are unlikable. And I appreciate that George Romero does that. But he also in Dawn of the Dead has African American man again and then a woman. And so I appreciate that he does that. And then Day of the Dead, we still have that kind of dynamic where we have a woman. But the problem is the characters are so unlikable in Day of the Dead. And there's so many of these dudes that are sexist and gross, but they're given so much screen time that it just puts you to sleep.
It's just this hyper masculinity and toxic masculinity, and it's so yeah, it's just I was exhausted. I was like, "Oh, okay, so a couple things. That famous gif that everybody always shares of the hands reaching out of the wall. That's, from this movie. Like she's looking at the calendar and then, it's like everyone's like this is bad acting. But it's like, "Oh, there's the gif."
Yeah. What a weird culture we live in. Here, I love that there are some really great kills. We were talking about Us, and in Us there's that obnoxious family, and we get to see them killed, and we're like kind of waiting to see it. And obviously in this movie you these guys are so bleh that you're like, yay, I'm excited to see them die. And they did do some great like pulling apart, ripping apart, which I thought was done pretty well for the 80s. But that's about it as far as anything I found interesting. You know,
I know. Oh, do you have when did this movie come out and what was the budget and box office?
so it came out in the summer of 1985. The budget was 3.5 million and the box office was 34 million, so it did pretty well. I think, it definitely helped that there were the two movies ahead of it, and people probably by this point were fans of George Romero. Romero describes the film as a tragedy about how a lack of human communication causes chaos and collapse even in this small little pie slice of society. Which I get, but I think it's more interesting in the house in Night of the Living Dead, in the mall and Dawn of the Dead. Oh, I think we agree about the one highlight of this movie though is Bub.
I love Bob. That's look my first note. The movie hasn't even started, and I'm like, I love Bob because he's so cute.
He's so cute, and I and hobbling along trying to watch Walking Dead still, and this whole and I they tease me with the idea that the zombies were going to be advanced, but they're not. But I like this idea of playing with, who are these zombies? Can they like become smarter? Can they have feelings? I think they give him a book. Like I love that they're at least trying. So I like that concept a lot. And I think it kind of like fleshes fleshes out the world, so to speak.
I when we were watching Us a few weeks ago, I was saying that end sequence. Oh, a little spoiler alert, but not entirely spoiler alert for the movie Us. There's a sequence that reminds me of Dawn of the Dead, and with Bub, it's like when people are not exactly right, but they're acting like they know what they're doing. It's kind of like Bub, like, oh, I know how to use a Walkman or whatever. There's something creepy about that, but also endearing. But in Us, it was just creepy.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. But yeah, Bub is kind of sweet and almost like infantile in a way, so I don't know. That's what I remembered from the movie, and I would think about Bub when you say Day of the Dead, and now I realize why. It's just a boring movie with, yeah, a lot of guys talking. I did think it was funny that oh, and now I can't think of his name. And I was just talking about Walking Dead. Did you notice? Oh yeah, Greg Nicotero is in it, and he was like a baby in it. I mean, not really, but he was like a young 20 something. And I saw his name when it came up, and I was like, wow. And then I just thought about like the sort of career he has where he was in Day of the Dead when he was so young, and now he's working on The Walking Dead as I think he directs. I don't think is he the showrunner? I don't know, but he's one of the head people at Walking Dead, and so it was kind of fun to spy him in this movie.
Yes, and I love zombies. There's a lot of good zombie action, like the zombies emerging from the tunnels and all these visual things, like you said, ripping the people apart. So, we get some good zombie action eventually. But speaking of zombies, Zombieland 2 is filming right now, and I like the first movie, but I was wondering, Meg, Woody Harrelson's character in that first movie, he's searching the ends of the earth for his Twinkies. What would you be searching the ends of the earth for?
Oh boy. Are we
Cole
talking?
Sprouse?
Yeah.
He's alive
I'm
somewhere.
coming to save you. I'm trying to think of a food item. I would be going into I would be traversing the Midwest going into Cracker Barrels to find Cracker Barrel biscuits.
I was thinking you were going to say top the tater because that's sort of a Minnesota thing, but it would definitely go bad because the electricity would be out.
Yeah. Well, what about you? What are you searching for?
Coke
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah, Kelly would be like going into the grocery store and just going straight for the Coke Zero aisle.
So I'm looking forward to Zombieland too. I think that'll be fun.
Mhm.
Um, oh God, all of my notes are like this would be a nightmare being stuck here with these men, and like that guy slaps her across the face.
I would just be like, I'm just gonna take my chances outside. I would rather just hang out with zombies, thanks, than all of you like misogynist assholes.
And I just wrote too, like it's not enjoyable or fun. Like Dawn of the Dead is so much fun because we get that mall aspect and just like thinking about, oh, if we lived in a mall, these are all the things we would do. And Night of the Living Dead just gives such different vibes than this too. And like the stakes are the same. I mean, there's zombies that they're trying to get away from, but I really didn't care about anybody.
No, and again, that's I'm always harping on that. If you don't care about the people, then whatever, like why watch the movie? But something that was going through my mind as I was watching it, I was like, well, maybe I just like movies in the zombie apocalypse where it's just starting. Like that's what I started to think. I was like, like Night of the Living Dead. But then I was like, no, because Zombieland, like things have gone, past. It's been a while at the point. And then and I mean, Walking Dead, it's kind of not that great right now, but there have been good seasons that happen way past when it starts. So I'm like, I'm giving it too much. It's just not a fun movie, is the problem. And even Dawn of the Dead happens like deeper into it. So I don't think it really matters when it is in the zombie apocalypse. It's
Yeah, if
just,
there's a good story to tell.
yeah, a good story to tell. And yeah, what a wasted opportunity as far as setting. And maybe they just didn't have a lot of money. I mean, well, they had 3 million, but and maybe that wasn't enough. But it's like I don't want to watch a movie in the subterranean area of us. Like that's where they are, and it's like I don't know. I want to be in a mall again, or just how about kind of like speaking of Walking Dead, like an Alexandria situation or something. I don't know that just visually that would have been nicer.
Yeah, it's the setting is boring and there's just not a lot of opportunity for conflict. And also, I paused to look at the time. it took over half of the movie to just get the action started. There wasn't even action until over halfway through.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a lot of talking, and I understand that Romero's looking at this and saying this is a movie about failed communication, and that's great. But we also want our zombie action.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. I just, yeah, for me, it was it was kind of a chore to watch, which I hate to say because I really love the first two movies, and even like later work that Romero did, I feel that I enjoyed, but this one just doesn't hit the mark for me.
No. And the other themes or moments that I appreciated, they're talking about like the ethics of medical testing and should he be feeding Bub brains and, is he killing people to feed Bub? I don't know. They're talking about that. I also like, I mean, this woman, she's the only woman in the whole movie, but she's competent. Like she cuts off her boyfriend's arm and then cauterizes it. Like that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I did, and she is somebody that I did care about, and thank God she existed in this movie. Otherwise, it would have been a complete disaster. And again, I am. I mean, maybe I shouldn't be appreciative. Maybe it just should be this way, and I'm like giving him too much credit. But I do appreciate that Romero tends to have women and people of color be the leads in his movies, especially because he's a white dude. So I do appreciate that. And also, I think he does make fun. I don't think he expects us to like these misogynist dudes. I do think they're there to be zombie food. So I do appreciate that. And yeah, she's a tough ass bitch. And like, I really don't think I could chop somebody's arm off and cauterize it. Do you?
No, that is something that I don't think I could do. But yet, like we are always saying with horror and other mediums of horror or storytelling, but this gets you to think about like, oh my God, if I was in that situation, could I do that? What if I had to do that? And it gets you thinking about things you would never think about on a daily basis.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and it's like that mom thing where it's like, well, if I had to do that to save one of my kids or somebody I love, like,
Whole Sprouse.
oh yeah, oh no, I have to cut off his arm, but he'll still be beautiful. It's okay.
So speaking of that, and I'm changing the subject now, but at the end, basically they're like, oh, we can go away and we'll repopulate the Earth. I would not repopulate the Earth if this was my reality, and especially with any of these dudes, not even like the good guys, quote unquote. Would you repopulate the Earth unless it was with Cole
I was
Sprouse?
gonna say, how is that changing the subject?
I know. I just didn't want to put it there, but yes.
Listen, I would not repopulate the Earth with somebody I don't want to do it with. I mean, call me shallow and that I don't care about humanity living on, but maybe this is like the universe's way of saying like if they stick me with like some of those dudes, like I think it's the universe saying humanity ends here.
Yeah, honestly, like no, there's no way. Oh God, gross. I don't know. Yeah, I'm probably not going to watch this movie ever again. And I didn't, like I said, remember like the moments that I remember from this movie are definitely Bub, and I remember some good gore action, which that the gore is still good in my opinion, but it's too much dialogue with unlikable characters.
Exactly. If you'd given me some different characters having discussions down there, it might have been different. But it was all like mushing together for me as I was watching it. I was just like, like. But I do love the gore. It did have good gore, and there's a female lead in it, and she's a scientist and all that. So there were some things about it, but yeah, I agree. I don't see myself ever watching this again.
So let's rank this movie on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 being you hated it, 10 being it's a perfect movie. And should we just use Bub's little cute little face with his Walkman on?
Aww, yeah.
How many little bubs do you give Day of the Dead?
When you say it like that, now I feel bad.
I know,
I'm
because
sorry.
he's like, "Don't you love me, Meg?"
Good Bob impression. I'm gonna give it.
Oh my God, when Bub has the gun, I love that part. He knows how to use the gun. Oh my god, and he salutes the guy when he comes
Oh,
in.
the salute. Yeah, Bub. Okay, I'm gonna give it 5. I was gonna give it 4, but then I see Bub's face floating.
Aw.
Which, by the way, I clicked on the actor, and he's in a ton of credits, and he does a voice in Red Dead Redemption 2, which is all my 12-year-old cares about right now. So, side note. Um, I give it 5 Bubs because of Bub, and because it's George Romero, and I think that he's a good director, and that I do appreciate that he's trying to make comments about society, even if it comes over not great in this movie. And it's a female lead, and there's some good tearing and ripping aparts.
Yeah, I'm also going to give it a 5. I like the gore. I do love the zombie action when we finally get to it. And some of that imagery in the tunnels, and it's just so many zombies. It's so good. But it's a lot to sit through for that. So like if I rewatch this movie again, I'm gonna watch the bub scenes, which I just mentioned, because that's really good. Like he remembers, he knows he's supposed to salute when he sees that insignia. Oh, it's good. And then just for that, some of that gore, like just to watch those guys get theirs at the end, that's satisfying.
There's nothing better than a multiple zombies ripping out your organs death scene. I love that so much. That's one of my favorite deaths because I never want to die that way. And yeah, and then if they're unlikable, it's even better. But I just love and movies like Shaun of the Dead and stuff. I think have sort of tipped their hat to Romero doing that, because it's just a really cool way to die on screen, I think.
And especially when they are like making eye contact with somebody and somebody is watching it who they love, like seeing them get their guts ripped out.
Oh my god, it's so crazy. I just love it. That made me smile when that happened, because it happened multiple times in this movie, and I was like, yeah.
So another just this is now I'm changing the subject, but
About Cole Sprouse.
I wish it was something that um we're watching and looking forward to more of is the What We Do in the Shadows TV show, because I was just thinking you mentioned Shaun of the Dead and I was like, within that vein of comedic horror, like tipping their hat to the genre and all of these references, like What We Do in the Shadows movie, I love it so much, and I'm so happy that they have made a TV show now.
Yeah, again, there's so much good TV, I don't even know what to do. But you showed me that movie because I still hadn't seen it, and you're like, you just need to watch it. And then I showed Luke the movie because I'm like, you have to see this, because it has the Shaun of the Deadness to it, and the humor. Reese Darby's in it in the movie. I love that. So the TV show, I mean, I'm excited.
So one of my favorite moments, there's a lot of favorite moments, but one of my favorite moments in What We Do in the Shadows movie is his name Peter, the really old vampire in the basement who looks like Nosferatu.
Oh, yeah.
Like he's hilarious. Like they open up, he's like, it's time to wake up or whatever, and it's just like he just hisses at him, and his death is so sad.
It's so funny. Oh yeah, it's really good. I just love the tone of it, and
He like putting down the newspapers before he's
oh,
gonna
yeah,
kill people.
because he's really sort of prissy and clean, and he comes from the Victorian era or something. Yeah. Oh my God. Well, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see the show. I don't know are there any people from the movie in the show?
I think that the guy who wears the fur vest, yeah, we saw him at Crypticon 2 years ago. Yeah, he's in it.
Okay, cool. That's cool. I'm excited. I love that whole I don't know what you call that sort of. I mean, it's obviously kind of like Office or what do you call
Like
that?
faux documentary.
Yeah, faux documentary, like Christopher Guest type filmmaking, or whatever you want to call it.
Mockumentary.
Mockumentary. Yeah. I love that. I mean, there's some better than others, but oh, it's so good.
Yes, I agree. So we recommend that and Twilight Zone, of course, and make sure that you're tuning into our mini episodes about Twilight Zone weekly. We're doing a weekly fast forward episode on that because we can't get enough Jordan Peele, so why not? Also, make sure that you have bought Meg's book, Daughters of Darkness, the sequel to Her Dark Inheritance, is out now, and you can pre-order our book called The Science of Monsters. You can pre-order it on Amazon, or you can come see us in person and pre-order it at the event in May. Do you want to tell everybody about it?
Yeah, this is the event in Minneapolis, Wordplay, May 11th and 12th, I believe. It's Mother's Day weekend, so bring your mom. It literally costs $10 to come see us and Stephen King, so you have no excuse.
Come on over. Like, yeah, Stephen King's gonna be there. How cool is that?
Yeah, he's going to be there right away on Saturday morning. So come on out right away. We're going to be actually really quite close to where he's doing his talk. And then you can come and you can pre-order Science of Monsters. You can come chat with us. I think we're going to be doing some Horror Rewind recording while we're there. And we'd love to see you and chat horror movies.
Awesome. So things are looking up after this Day of the Dead, like bringing us down a little bit. But you know what? It's spring and life is good. So rewinders, until next time, we'll see you in the horror section.